Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Freeze coming at you with the weekly live stream. And today, as you probably could guess better from the thumbnail, that I accidentally copied from Suntree Kawaza's video, so I'm gonna have to go find me another picture and change that. But we will be talking about the next set of endurance bots a little bit. Now, there hasn't been much progress made yet, but I'll tell you a little bit. There's a slight dilemma that's been going on this go around, and we'll talk about that a little bit today and what the possibilities are to solve that dilemma. We are leaning in a particular direction. I'll talk about that as well. So let's see. We will also be talking a little bit about. I came up with an idea, and I was gonna make it into a video. But this week's a slow week, so I said I'll talk about it on the stream. But I made a list of underrated bots. So I made my top 10 list of underrated bots in the game, and just talk about some of the reasons why I feel like they're underrated. Particularly, I've been looking a lot at use rates. I'm still planning on doing that tournament. I'm gonna start working on that this week and try to start um, pumping out the videos next week. So this will be kind of a good segue into that tournament. Uh, so yeah, so all in all, should be a pretty fun stream. Before we talk about any of that, of course, let's take a look at this week's event and this week's newsletter. And this week's event it is called Things Fall Apart. And I was talking to some of my playtest buddies earlier, and I said, man, like with the way a lot of people see the game right now, um, these these event titles are getting really really comical. But anyway, it's week one is new saga. I see a couple of people were talking about the endurance over this weekend. I took it easy last weekend. I did oh excuse me, leaderboard last weekend, and I did about 27K. Relaxed a little bit, just hit when I had time, and didn't spend any money on the event. But this week we got a 500K event, and you get up to 5K prime shards. You're gonna have some 4-star, 3-star, and premium shards, and spark and combat spark, some total spark chest, and alloy energon and gold power cores. So it looks like it's gonna cap off at 500K. So for me, and I was actually having a conversation with Parker Prime. Shout out to Canada East. I was talking to him today and yesterday, and he was asking me what are some things that I want to improve with the game. And one of the things I was telling him is that I've grown to hate 500K events, and the reason why, like for me personally, it's nice, easy event. You can chill out. Nobody's really worried about anything. But the problem with 500K events is this. So say you always gonna have different types of players in your alliance, at least especially for me being in one of the top 5 alliances. You're gonna have some guys that are gonna join your alliance. They're gonna do like 90K on day one, stuff like that. And then you finish the event ends, and then it's like, okay, well now what? So some of those guys are gonna be like, well, I want to keep grinding XP, and because they want to keep grinding XP, what it encourages people to do is to leave the alliance, go help some of the lower alliances, which is great if you are an alliance, a large alliance family. If you're just wanting to move on to the next war, Saturday evening, Sunday, you're pretty much dead in the water because you're not going to have a full alliance. And so for me, I really wish with these 500K events, they just either added the total spark chest at the end or something like that, so that you can just continue on, or make them go um, for infinite time periods, or let them go. I mean, not infinite time periods, but infinite amounts of points, or make them like where prizes cut off at 500K, but then you still have to, make it to where you can do like 2 million points, and then the event cuts off or something like that. So the players that want to keep hitting can hit. But anyway, that's just my soapbox on that. We get typical battle zones for the event. And, we get a note from the community managers, says that he wants to personally and wholeheartedly thank everyone who reaches out, pings, and this looks like it's Callum from Callum, pings him and Dale like crazy on Discord to raise concerns and speak truths. Yeah, no, I mean, if you've ever been on Discord, it's a whole lot of that. So yeah, yeah, so I mean, it's good to get a note like that from the community manager. Just trying to encourage everybody to just participate in the communities and stuff like that. So good to see that. Content creators, make sure you check out the official ones: Engineer Horse, myself, Soldier, and of course Sunstreak Awaza. All right, so we're in week one of the second half of this saga. So it looks like we got a 5-star legacy event coming up. I probably should actually show that. I remember showing it when we first started talking about Iron Bison, Kill Bison, because Terra is watching, and and Light Speed. So I need to make myself a note to go in there and take a peek at that, see how that's coming along. We're gonna have another we're gonna have 10K prime shard event at the end, and it still says to be determined for what would normally be the spot where the endurance goes. Especially considering we get an endurance spot now, I would hope that we just do the normal endurance format. And then we got a community corner. That right there. When I saw this, Blast Magnus 1984 made this. That's his collection. That's crazy. Like that's a tough little collection there. And then we got Nexus Unicronus with some pretty dope artwork there. And then we get a list of bug fixes that's going on. So anti-acid core was resisting more than just acid. That's been fixed. Jays and Barrow were not disabling shields. That's been fixed. Metal Hawk and Bomb Burst tooltip update. God Neptune and Ruination. They fixed the issue where the damage decrease was being removed by FFD. See, I thought that was supposed to be like that. So when I read this earlier, and a lot of people had kept saying, "Hey, FFD removes it," and I even remember at one point saying, talking about it in playtest, and I thought that the goal was for FFD to remove that shield, and that is not the case, and that's going to be fixed. So, all you Ruination and God Neptune users just got a nice little bonus. Leo Prime and Predacon Inferno, they got a bunch of issues. Damage was wrong. Tool tips are wrong. They fixed that. And it said it doesn't have impact damage. It's supposed to burn targets over 10 seconds. So, I happen to actually play in that individual endurance event. I am curious to see how this bot turns out, if he's going to be good now or not. And yeah, if that's the case, maybe I'll give him a run. The Cosmic Rust Blaster wasn't taking water damage, so or any elements from a Titan, so that's been fixed. And of course, you know, CL had some issues, um, and they were able to quickly fix the issue. They said they missed the cost of the upgrade. The fix will be live tomorrow, and so yeah, I actually had a friend who sent in a trouble ticket for that, and they were saying that it wasn't supposed to be working. As far well, I don't want to talk about that because that might have been a different thing. I'm not sure if he did that for CL or not. Let's see. And they got a list of stuff they want to fix down there as well. So yeah, so should be good. And next week, Space Ape will be streaming on the 1st of August, so make sure you check them out. And that's what we got for the news this week. So let's go ahead and check out the chat, see who we got in there. And my good friend, fellow content creator and moderator, Dark Terror, is in the chat. And thanks for joining, Terror. And he says he wants to give a quick reminder to like and subscribe to my channel. Like and subscribe to his channel too, guys. He got I hadn't watched it yet, but he got a nice long video on Snapdragon out right now, one of his favorite bots. So yeah, make sure you check his channel out as well. And also, I saw a lot of you guys in there giving me shout outs. For those who didn't notice, I did reach my 1K subscribers over the last week. So, thanks to all of you guys for supporting me. I am now fully monetized. So, anything I make, you know, I can get ad revenue for now. So, that's going to be really nice, you know, considering I just got my second YouTube check this weekend. So, definitely looking forward to being able to get those a little bit more frequently with the ad revenue. The homie Daddy Pig is in here with us again. Thanks for joining, Daddy Pig. One of my good friends and members, Candyman, has joined us, and he says make Cyclonus great again. That's more like it. As I get used to you saying make Cyclonus great again. So yeah, thanks for joining, buddy. And he also says he didn't get any of the binary bond equipment this weekend. So yeah, man, it sucks, man. Like, you know, I get having exclusivity for that stuff, but only the top 10. So you got 400 players to get that. Man, that's kind of pushing it. Especially when you when you get some good scores like that. So, sorry to hear that. My good friend and moderator, Fox the Bomb, is with us again, as well as Spencer394. Thanks for joining, guys. Blade19 is with us again. Says hello and how's it going? And I say, well, what's going on, Blade19? Thanks for joining. Doing good over here. Let's see. We got Jackson Bass is with us again. Thanks for joining, Jackson. We got Black Knight Mon, who probably one of the first people to tell me congrats on the 1K subs. Thanks for that. Um, and we got Magic TFEW is my teammate now as of last week and a fellow content creator. Make sure you check him out, guys. And thanks for joining Magic. We got E-Rods is with us again. It says, hello all and happy Freezius stream. Oh shoot, Magic just said, so we at war with Scorch. And it says it looks like we'll win this war. I actually hadn't looked at that since in about an hour. I started setting up for stream, but that'll be good. Let's see, we got Jimmy Watson in here with us. It's like he likes to beat that we were playing earlier. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining, Jimmy. We got my good friend from Playtest, King Grimlock, in here with us. Thanks for joining, KG. Flash Striker is with us again. Thank you for joining, Flash Striker. Oh shoot! Yeah, I was looking at Magic's comment. He said we got 10K. Now the thing is, and I'm gonna talk about that here in a little bit. I actually started out the day I started out the war last night, on the verge of flaming out, and I'm gonna talk about some of the adjustments I made or whatever, with some help from Magic and a couple of my teammates. So I'm gonna take a look at that. I kind of went in my own direction a little bit, but used some of the same concepts. So gonna talk about that here in a little bit as well. So let's flip over to the big screen and let us talk a little bit about. Oops. We can talk a little bit about our new endurance bot. So I was able to talk a little bit yesterday. I had like a screenshot, but I didn't have the actual bot to show off last week. This week I do. And so we've got D-16 on the con side, and we've also got Orion Pax on the Autobot side. Now, this is what we were looking at. This is what we were given in test. Haven't been any changes made yet. But a couple of things to note, and the biggest thing is that we're able to use range bots on this particular bot. Now, if you look at the ability, the concept, it says to rally Decepticons to engage the target for 9.5 seconds, and then send in a hollow. The hollow is going to do damage to the target and make them take 20% extra damage for a time period. Now, about I think it was the yesterday or the day before yesterday. Let me go actually look in my in the playtest chat, because they basically, the concern is, so the dilemma they've been having for Space 8 has been that when you dealing with characters like D-16 and Orion Pax, you already have Optimus Prime and you already have Megatron in the game, right? Now, I get the whole thing. We get a movie coming out in September. Uh, this endurance would align with that very, very nicely. And so, uh, Jesse came into the chat yesterday and he said to us that the team is considering doing a change in the bot ability. So some of the things they were considering was like making the projection and EMP bomb on impact. So I'm assuming they're talking about the hollow. The hollow wouldn't do any damage, and then no longer makes the afflicted target take damage. And so instantly all the playtests basically was like, nah, don't do that. And so I had to ask the question. I was like, out of curiosity, why do you want to go make this kind of change? Because when we took the first survey for this in playtest, they said the goal was to make a cheaper to use version of Optimus and Megatron. They wanted to make them a ranged bot. They wanted to let them control the team from a safer distance, and they wanted them to do direct damage. So I showed them a screenshot of that survey, and I was like, "Hey, man, this sounds way different from that." But the concern is that when you look at it from a lore standpoint, and I'm actually glad that Jesse said that, because when you look at it from a lore standpoint, and you had the leader of the Autobots and you had the leader of the Decepticons, you're going to go take their younger versions and try to make it essentially significantly better than the version that they got in the game. And I mean, and these are good bots in the game with regular Optimus Prime and regular Megatron, right? So, as I showed you last week, and let me actually switch over to the video that I showed last week if I can still find it. So this is what we were originally introduced with, and I showed this last week before I even got an opportunity to test the bot. And this is what they shared with us when they were talking about the concepts in playtest. And so you can see that very last icon is Orion Pax, and just to look at what they were looking at the ability working like. Now I do think there was a little tiny bit of tweaking that they made, because when I was testing the bot, uh, you can see that it is used as ability. A hologram comes out, does some damage, and he just runs right back into the thick of things. And so I had a couple of players contact me, uh, to keep it a band with you. Nobody likes that. Nobody nobody really was feeling that. So, and I do understand, because when you go look at this bot, and let me pull the bot back up, and you look at the statistics, the biggest thing that screams at me is that the health wasn't very low. I actually put vitality up there, so you actually have this coming in at around 22k, 22 and a half k. I think most of us can agree that's not very good. And so I'm actually going to take a look at how he looks right now to see if there was any changes made, because what I noticed when I was doing this, my test on it, was that he was kind of hanging back a little bit. And from a lore standpoint, I didn't really like that very much. It's almost like it's almost kind of like he's hiding back behind his troops or whatever. So I didn't like that. So I'm glad that we're trying to move away from that. But after I run this test, I will show you guys. Well, I will talk to you guys about the options that we're talking about going with this particular bot. So I'm just going to drop the whole team here just for demonstration purposes, and I'm going to go use D-16. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to see where his location is. So now you can kind of see him hanging back behind the team a little bit. I'm going to use his ability again. He's going to shoot his hologram. Team's going to run over there. He runs over adjacent to the team, and that just crashed. But he's going to run adjacent to the team, but he doesn't. He kind of stays at a gunner's range behind the team, which honestly I thought was better. I even now I say I even said that it was pretty good. It's a way of you controlling your team without you without you dashing in. If you're going to make a range bot, you're not going to make a range bot that's got like 40, 50, 60k or anything like that. So that's one of the that's always one of the concerns. And the other concern that a lot of people have is that, to be honest with you, uh, those rush abilities don't always work perfectly. But that's kind of what we're looking at, and even here, he seems like he's still kind of engaged with his original target. So that kind of makes things. See, those rush, those control rush abilities don't always work very well. I mean, in this case, he's still attacking a auto cannon, and the rest of the team has moved on. So, it, definitely some room for improvement. So I'm gonna try this one more time because he's wandering by himself, and it's kind of starting to piss me off. But the team is kind of going up, and so yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. But let's check the chat, see what's going on, and I will tell you about the two possibilities that we have left and which direction we can go with this bot. So let's see. I got the chat. So Monty has joined the chat, and Monty says, "Is it not just a worse Hound Vamp though?" And that comparison did get made in playtest. Um, and it is what it is. So let's actually take a look. Since we're having that conversation, let's have a look at Hound. Well, I don't have Hound Vamp up here, but I do have a special class. I gotta go to my 4 stars. So Hound Vamp and Soundwave Hiss. So when you look at this ability, it's saying follow Cobra's command, aim at a defense, and the Hiss tank will shoot bouncing projectiles. So, and this is the part that I believe that you're saying is worse. So the bouncing projectiles are doing uh, 4,000, 4K damage, 90% on each bounce, and the defenses in the area receive 40% more damage and get prioritized by all bots for 15 seconds. So because this is a 4 star, uh, I don't really ever take that one into account as much because, like I was saying last week, you got this lady here, you got Scylla and Ariel, and 40% damage increase, absorption shield, you know, pretty good overall. But and then you get, then you look around and you got actual Megatron, right? So, oh shoot, and I actually don't have him leveled up on the test server, but so I don't have his stats right this second. But yeah, so you got a bunch of different control bots, but I think the best comparison is actually going to be the Soundwave his comparison. Um, so from that aspect, yeah, you got a good point there. And so I guess we got a lot of more horde members coming in here because I said Eric Lotzenslager joined saying, "Look at all the horde members in here." Uh, Jettison C4, one of my good friends, content creator as well, uh, is absolutely dead at the fact that he's a ranged bot. Dark Terror still wants to know where's Jaguar. All right, so a positive take here. Sunstrike says that a backline director might actually sounds pretty cool. To be honest, I just think, and I don't disagree if two things occur. I don't disagree if in this case, it's got to be kind of lore accurate. If you got somebody that's going to eventually wind up becoming the leader or something, you don't want them just kind of hanging out in the back while his troops take all the damage. And the other thing that I was thinking about in this particular case is, it's just, I don't really know how to put it. I think that I think the concept is good, but I don't want to give away what I'm about to say next because there is a possible solution in place, and so we'll talk about that in a minute. Magic TFEW says, "Take my money, give me this bot." Well, I think you go for just about every bot, but he is like, he says, "I'll do some fun and drunken tactics with him," and he says, "Show the ability 11." So I actually don't think. Let me take a look. Yeah, I don't. Oh, he's going. So, and right now, what they were talking about is doing a life steal for him. So it'll be a 40% life steal. I don't even know if that's going to be the case for him anymore, but that's what we're kind of looking at. So I will tell you what we are thinking about doing. So it's two choices that they gave us. So Dale took this, playtesters don't always like this, but he took the conversation on how we should build this endurance bot to the Unicron chat. So that's where they had when they were doing the loyalty program, the original loyalty program, where a lot of those guys congregate. And he went into that Unicron chat and he asked some advice on what we should do with this thing. And so the conversation is kind of similar to how it was in playtest. Um, you don't want the bot to be, you don't want them to be overpowered, and you don't want them to be so much better than the actual Optimus Prime because, like I said, in Megatron, like these are the earlier versions of them. So two ideas came up that were very, very popular in the Unicron chat. So I'll read the first one. And the first one, from what Dale was saying, he says, "Well, what if the bot doesn't charge in, but it rallies all the bots at a specific point, and in playtest, this is actually an idea that came from a playtester originally. He says, well, why don't all the bots just rally onto the bot itself? So all the bots would rally onto D-16. And I was like, I don't have a problem with that. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But he says once they rally on him, he can grant them like some kind of bonus. We don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be that life steal that they have in here with the ability 11. Who knows? But they want to give them some bonus that helps the entire team, right? So that's the first choice. The second choice would be that when Orion Pax or D-16, when they die, they will reincarnate as Optimus and Megatron. So that came up in playtest. They gave us those two options, and most of the playtesters that spoke on it already said, "Nah, you can't make him reincarnate as Optimus and Megatron because then he would be better than Optimus and Megatron." And like I said, I get it. You're promoting the movie and stuff right now, so that means in all of the Transformers games and stuff, you're gonna want to promote these characters. But I tend to agree with that. That second choice isn't right. You can't just then if that's the case, like why even have Optimus and Megatron? You just go get this dude in the endurance event. Like I don't have a Megatron on my live account. You know what I'm saying? Like not a 5-star. And so then you just go get this and that's not right. So I think that we may be leaning towards um, where the bots can rally on to uh, Orion Pax and D-16, and then they have to give them some kind of special boost. So my question to you guys is, if that's the direction they take, what do you think that boost should be? Like, should they stick with the life steal idea they have? Should they do something different? Excuse me. Let me know in the chat, and I'll take a look and see what's going on in the chat. I see Lou Mega joined us. Thanks for joining, Lou. Oh, Sunstrike says he was joining about a backline director. Andrew Stevenson joined us. Says good morning. Kill Bison with 7K power. Okay, that's a good reminder to her because I do need to show him too. All right, so one of my members, Silverbolt 94, says originally we were gonna get 6, but got cut to 5 for fairness. Dale for the bots. Probably died of something like Groove with the space bridge. Yeah, so and I didn't dig into the chat too much, talking about D16 and Orion Pax. Um, I took a peek here and there, but I did see a lot of people talking about the rally idea in there. So yeah, Terra kind of reiterated the earlier point that seeing Megatron with a ranged combat is throwing me off for some reason. Yeah, and then yeah, Monty said my bad. He said words, and we're referring back to when we were talking about Soundwave Hiss and Hound Vamp. But yeah, just extremely similar. The extra damage the target receives was the other part too. So yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I was talking with some players earlier that were saying if you were to use if you were to use this button, I'm pull up the map for a second because the example that you used was if you made a bot that could rally around, and say you led off with say like Warpath or Skull Smasher, Skull Cruncher because Terra is watching, and say you used that ability, you took out your build bots and such, and then you drop your team on the other side with D-16 or Orion Pax, and then you could just move them to the opposite side of the battlefield. That would open up a really new perspective on how we could actually play the game at that point. So I'm actually curious to see how that goes. But yeah, hopefully know something soon. Hopefully know something by the end of the week, honestly, and that would be really helpful. So yeah, let me know in the chat what you think about Orion Pax and D-16 coming to Transformers Earth Wars. All right, so I do want to take a look at Kill Bison and Lightspeed. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and load us up a couple of bots. I'm just gonna put some random bots up here, see how it goes. Actually, I don't think they put this Predacon Inferno change into playtest either, because I'm curious about that and I want to know how that turns out. So yeah, we're just gonna stick some random bots up there. So let's talk about Kill Bison. Alright, so Bison is getting his rework. So it says dash in the combat game plus 200% health, which is based on your max health for 8 seconds. Then swiftly retreat, blinding targets as you dash through for 12 seconds. The final target you engage before retreating takes 4.5k damage. So for that, and yeah, so I guess it didn't change much. I don't think it really changed much since the last time I talked about it. But considering that event is next week, it is worth talking about. I'll probably do a separate video, and in that video, what I want to do is kind of talk about um, potential tactics, stuff like that. I know uh, it's probably been over a year ago now. I made one that was like all speed team or something like that, and it was pretty good. But yeah, I kind of like this ability. Uh, I mean, fuck, man, like you use an ability like that, and so that blinding, it didn't really explain it well in the tooltip, but essentially what they did was they stopped this thing from even being able to fire on you, whatever your target is or whatever winds up in that line while you're running your ability. I mean, shoot, man, with a and then you go get a max health boost on top of that. Man, ain't too many abilities that's much better than that. So this is gonna be a much desired bot. It is a combiner piece bot. So really a lot to like with this one. I think, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't do leaderboard because this is a bot that I wouldn't mind pursuing. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And I'm just clicking buttons at this point. But yeah, man. So I definitely think this is something that I would use. Yeah, I think we got us a winner here. But based off of that information, let me know in the chat what you think. And it looks like Foxter Bomb just gave away a membership, and he's giving it away at a good time, man. Because for those of you that I didn't talk to about it, I just worked my last day this past Friday for the United States Air Force. Now I'm still technically still in. I'm going to be doing internship programming called Skill Bridge, so to help me transition into retirement. So, long story short, I got a lot more time to be around the house and make content. So, you should start seeing the benefits of that soon. Andrew Stevenson said he's looking forward to Orion Pax coming. So Blade 19 has a question. It says, if you use that ability, and he's talking about the ability of D-19 and Orion Pax, they will run to him, but won't they be getting hammered until they get there? Um, that's a good point. So depending on what kind of range they give you for that ability, um, like using the example that I gave, if you had a bot running all the way across, if you had him running all the way across the bottom of the map, he is going to. And I'm s- I- I'm just thinking out loud. I would say that they're probably going to take damage while they're on the way there. That is a concern, and that might be something worth thinking about when you are using the bot. Another possibility that I thought of for D16 and Orion Pax is, say, and I run into this situation a lot personally. What if you're advancing the battlefield and say you're about to get into the kill zone? Like say you're running right here, you see the range where the MDS is, and so say I'm right here, I'm trying to clear out these outpost spots, and what if I say, hey, I want to rally back to some other spot further back on the map? I could see that being a good, useful strategy, and I could see it being a good strategy for if you have bad pathing for some of your bots as well. So that's what I'm kind of thinking that most people will use it for, but we'll see how it goes. And it looks like Blade 19 was the one that won the month of membership. So uh, you came at a good time. You should be seeing some content coming in soon. It'll help me get paid too now that I'm monetized. uh, Terry says, back to the power level. You use all the rank skips on him, didn't you? Because Kills has a low power level. Nah, nah. I said it's not bad. I said I think I ranked him up to captain. I think when I was doing it last time. All right, so let's get into. So I was thinking that I was looking at some underrated bots, and when I was doing that, one of the things I started looking at, and, when I first built this channel, part of it was just trying to talk more about just different bots, and because we always talk about that top 15 or so, and then we really don't talk about much of anything else. So for me, I started looking more at some of the underrated bots, and when I did that, I started finding a lot of bots I really enjoyed. I started finding a lot of ways to get around not having some of those top bots, to the point that earlier today I was talking about how I was in that war and I was losing and everything. And the first thing people always tell me is, they see some of the teams that I built, and everything I do has like some sort of purpose. But this is the team that I had like 2 weeks ago. This is what I was using, and the first questions always come up. Why are you using junk heap? So that's Retgar for you guys on the Autobot side. Why are you using him and not Flatline? Well, I haven't leveled mines all the way yet. And, leveling does take some time unless you just devote your time and money onto just that bot. So I'll probably have him in the cooker next week for the level 60 and above cap. But yeah, so I hadn't got there yet, and you know what? At the end of the day, it's all right because for me, and I'll actually talk about this here in a little bit. I like having that instant 100% revive, right? So people always ask about that. Uh, I was kind of, but I kind of have a lot of redundancy in my team, right? Because with Bludgeon does his thing, but then he's backed up by Run Amok for uh, Run Amok's invulnerability. I'm talking about Bludgeon is Ironhide for you Autobots, and then Run Amok is Red Alert. Uh, Blot's my outpost popper, so that's Rook for you guys on the Autobot side, and um, then you got Half Shell that I use to take out all my key stuff because his he can take down shields, so that's really helpful when the shield is what you use for everything. It's this important defensively. So then I started running him, and obviously he's got a great deal of ability damage, so he's not going anywhere. Cutthroat and Tracks, I think most people agree. Most top players have them on the teams just because they're able to block so much damage. 60% of damage getting blocked. Now that's something I can also perform with Run Amok, but not to the same extent. He's 50% damage absorption, and then 100% for yourself. So he can back up Bludgeon for a little bit. He can back up Cutthroat for a little bit. And then Acid Storm, I brought him back in because I was having problems with build bots, and I kept running into bases where I had like 4 or 5 of the Force Field Disruptor power cores. So Thundercracker and Acid Storm were the ones that I was using for my build bots. But what that left me, what I wound up doing, because I was having the Striker roll for a little bit so that I had the additional damage. And I said, man, I'm not used to playing without this striker role yet. And so I went to go the double healer. So I bought my hook, and then my hook's already level 70. I think I got him at captain on my live server. And suddenly I was starting to time out. And I did that twice. And I was like, hey, man, I can probably use a hand here. And so what I ended up doing was something a little bit different. So I'm still using Junk Heap. And I'll actually probably just show this later on because I wanted to talk about my top 10 list. But a couple of the bots in this list I actually put in here, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But as far as underrated bots go, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go in here with my number 10 pick. So for me, one of the bots that I feel, and don't get me wrong, he still needs a little bit of tweaking, I feel like. But one of the bots I really think is a little undervalued is Full Tilt and Brawn. And the reason why I say that is with Full Tilt and Brawn, let's take a look at their tooltip real quick. So on that tooltip, the key thing that stands out to me right away is two things that really stand out. And so that's the cost, and that is the damage that it actually puts out. But there's one huge flaw for him, and that flaw is, and I actually pointed out on the actual map real quick. So if I'm going to deal with this, I'm not charged up right now, but this cluster, shock tower, immune to EMP, right? So that's usually where you're going to see stuff like your Liege Maximo. You might see just different thing. You might see an Onyx core, something like that. Like so, with Brawn and full tilt is strong enough to overcome that, but because it's immune to EMP, you're not able to actually take them out. Same thing with the MDS. Now, I'll say this, and I want to go compare some costs real quick. But when I compare these bots, you'll see. So half shell is what I use now to go destroy all that stuff, and he's at 6+3. If I was to use full tilt twice, that would cost me 6 points. So I think that if they raise the cost, and I know they lowered the cost last time, I think if they raise the cost on full tilt, I mean, just so not that it's not like 3+0, it could be like 3+ something else, and they allow them to damage those items, or they gave them something, even if it was something that wasn't EMP, if they gave them something else, it could be something counterable, then I think that would actually make him a bot that everybody would want to use. Now, he does have some of those scout class bot behaviors, but you can use him to stun. Yeah, you can use him for a lot of things that are great, but you just cannot use him on that MDS, and you cannot use him on that shield generator, and that is always going to cause him to be problematic. But he can destroy anything else. Like if I'm going to use it on this MDS, it's not going to do anything. And so it makes you wonder, why do you need 14k damage if you can't destroy the highest health items in the game? So if they change that, then that would make it worthwhile. And that's why I had him at the bottom of that list. Yeah, I see King Grimlock. Says MDS, Brawn. That's what I'm saying. If they made it do that. Now, the concept of the bot itself is awesome, but because they gave him EMP, that's what sets him back. He'd be great otherwise, because the concept is there. They just need to change that. Dark Terror asked me, is there any bots he likes in the list? And you're gonna have to listen to the list. One of my other good friends and fellow playtester, Certain Lee, says that he can drop HQ pretty fast, especially in Zone 15, and that's a good point because there are bots on this list that are going to be used that you can use for like farming, you can use for just different stuff. I'd imagine that he'd be pretty good to carry with you in a raid, stuff like that. Um, but that one particular con outweighs all the pros for this particular bot. I also don't like that you gotta wait till his ability 11 until you get decent range, but overall, that's my number 10 bot. So the next bot that I want to talk about, and he's a polarized. Well, I didn't even say he's a polarizing dude. People actually hate him, but I actually like. Where is he at? I actually like this dude right here. I like Drag Stripping Hound, and the reason why I like Drag Stripping Hound is because, and it's a good segue because we were just talking about bots that you can use and like in a normal battle you can use them just fine. I would even venture to say, as far as to say that I've actually used this dude in war before, and what I was doing is I had a real good strategy that I had going where I would use him and I would use it, I was about to call the Autobot name, Air Raid, but I would use Slipstream, and I would use them in a combination. But I think that he needs, and people want to give him a massive overhaul. I don't think that Drag Strip needs that. What I think that Drag Strip actually needs is for them to bump up his ability damage. And yeah, but the key thing for me here is that double damage to resource buildings means that if you're out there farming, you can just go ahead and just rack up on getting your ability points and getting your resources really easily. If you're in a war situation, that definitely helps you to get ability points easily. But the problem here is that its cost is very high, justifiably so, because you could just, if you had a low cost, you could just sit there and spam them and just get unlimited ability points, just back to back. So I do understand the cost, but it's just one of those things where I'm just like, damn, like I wish he had just a little bit more power so that he could just take out the resource build him, because he's not doing much damage to anything else. That ability 11 allows you to set stuff on fire. So because of the range that he has, range is always the range is always the friend of damage over time. And so when you get a decent range, you know, but he is limited. But because of what he actually does, if he could hit anything other than resource buildings, it would be great. I mean, he can, but it's not going to do anything. But now you can see that as something that you can use to just clear out resource buildings. But if you get into a situation like this, where it's stuffed in the back, then it becomes somewhat useless. But then there was point in time when everybody had all their stuff in the front, and I would actually use it to help me with pathing. He's got a lot of good in him. I think they need to go in there and change a couple of things. Uh, so yeah, that's one of the things that I would love to see. One of the bots I would love to see, just get a minor rework. I don't think he needs the massive overhaul that a lot of other players say that he needs. Now I will say that G1 that he's got is super janky. Like, let me actually pull it up real quick so you can take a look at it. But that G1 that he's got, that hologram, man, it's got to go. Nobody wants a decoy of a bot that a 30% health decoy of a bot that has 15k health. Now, if you were looking at a decoy and it's on a bot like Blot or Rook, cool, man. I'd even go as far as to say with RC and Nightbird, nobody wants a decoy, and all it does is get you into trouble. Sometimes you'll be running a base, a hologram just randomly pops out, pops an outpost bot sneaks up behind you. That can be annoying. But he does get a little bit of a special ability boost there. So, hey, and speak of the devil, I see Callum has joined into the chat. Thanks for joining, Callum, one of our community managers for Space Ape. Glad to see you here. KG says spy mode activated. I ain't say nothing nasty today, man. We're good. But so let's see. So that was my number 9 pick. All right, so I know I got a couple of people in there that like this one. But like since they did and crashed on me again, but the next bot I was going to talk about, and I've talked about them before, but the next bot that I was going to pick is actually Leozak and Scattershot. And I'm looking at my notes, and so some of the pros that I had there, naturally, it's a good thing that he's got asset. But when they gave him ability 11, he went from being one of the bots that I absolutely can't stand in this game to one of the bots that I really actually like in this game. And if I could find a way to work him on to some sort of team, I would. I hadn't gotten there yet. But in that, I haven't fully leveled him yet. Like I got him, and I was so. Some of you guys were there when I pulled him, and I was so pissed. But but now, what I look at is they gave him this ability 11, and they said he can recover 25% of all of his damage. And so for me, what that leads me to is what I call a common sense pairing. And I started looking at 25% damage recovery when he uses ability. Then I said, well, I'm going to use Alchemist Prime so that all of his attacks heal him for 15%. And then they came out with a combat bot that I really like called Fireglide and Interacts. And he's going to, well, right now, They still waiting on fixing. They got a bug fix that I was talking about earlier. But he's supposed to take an additional 20% from all sources. Now I know some of my fellow testers said, "Nah, he's still not good enough. He need the ability 11 need to be stronger." But when I can make a common sense pairing like that, and I can just add a bot and just like I just really because I'm a survivability buff when it comes to how I want to approach things. Like, bro, I was damn near giggling just using this bot. It's just so much fun, man. And when you look at the fact that it is only 7.2k damage with half of that, you get half of that value going into splash damage. But that's a really nice AoE for if you're taking on some sort of healing. If it's the only asset option you get, I think they came out with his ability 11 too late. I think they should have did his ability 11 shortly after the asset meta kicked off, or maybe like 6 months later. Give somebody some kind of relief for the whole asset meta. Now we're kind of slowly moving away from it, but he's not strong enough to really destroy much on his own, and I think that's why he always kind of people kind of fall back from him. But with that ability 11, man, he's a real dog. So yeah, so he is number 8 on my list. Okay, so King Grimlock says he's like scattershot. Okay, he can deal with that one. He says he still needs a gun, and he said, and KG says that he hooked him up the same way. That is actually underrated. Oh man, that sucks. So first off, welcome RG for joining the stream. He says he finished 11th in last week's LB. That's gotta hurt. My thing is like when you put in the work, I just love when stuff is at a specific point. You know exactly where the goal is. Um, dude, that sucks. Okay, and Preacher, one of my teammates from the Horde, is joined. Thanks for joining, Preacher. Now we got the whole. What is like? Oh, is anybody fighting the war? All 40 guys just gonna be in here watching YouTube. All right. So next spot on my list. So this is number 7 on my list. I got. Let's see. Warrior class. So the next one I got is Breakdown Prime, and I actually like him a lot. But it's two things that really kind of throw me off, and the biggest thing for me is when I look at what some of the other Rush warriors do. So I'm gonna start off with this. I like ice. I like those abilities, those slow down abilities. I think it's great. I think it's something in the game that we need to use more of. It's two things that to me would make this bot better. The first thing is that I think they should reduce the cost. He's at 4+2. You got headstrong and pipes at 3+1. When I start looking around, yeah, headstrong 3+1, bludgeon 3+2, and people give me crap for bludgeon all the time because they say, well, he's 3+2, he's too expensive. Well, I'm using him like twice in a battle in most cases, right? 4+2 is tough to justify when you're saying, hey, you're just slowing down, you know, um, defenses. I was like, well, for a smaller cost, bludgeon will stop the defenses in their entirety. They'll still stun them, you know. Headstrong will give them acid, and then it'll make it easier for it'll have anti heal. The health is good. The health is actually better than. Let me see if I got a 4-star. The health is actually better than my 4-star of bludgeon. It's actually better. I didn't mean to actually click on. Yeah, so the health is better. Both of those guys I got ranked at captain. But it's the other thing that's it. I said it's two things that missing. The other thing that's missing for me is I wish that if there was some consistency with elements. So Hawk, for example, Brainstorm has something a little bit different, but in theory it still kind of works the same. But Hawk has exploding ice. I think if they gave this dude exploding ice, you could actually leave the cost the same. You could leave him at 4+2 if he had exploding ice. That would be dope. He had slow down, or he could just have ice that exploded and went into a slowdown. And then I think 4+2 would be appropriate for that. You could have the slow down for anything that's covered in ice, and then it could explode, give massive damage. And he's not going to do the damage itself. The team would do the damage. That would be great. Um, like I said, he's got great health. He's got some of the things that make a good tank. But and ice right now doesn't have any counters. So you have a real good opportunity there. He's a bot that's not a 5-star yet. He's something that we could give like a minor rework, and I feel like could go into a legacy batch. You could stick him in there as a 5-star, and then boom, he wouldn't even take that much work. And yeah, and to King Grimlock's make the same point. Says, hey, he costs so much. Certainly says that slow works on an MDS where stun won't, and that's a good point. If you're focused specifically on that, and that's why I say he's a little bit underrated. He's only a 4-star. They made him a 5-star, and I got into one of those situations where I do feel like I want to slow something down because I'm in a choke point or something like that. That would be he's the bot. Now I'll tell you this, for my style of play, I don't take my rush warriors right into the middle. I know a lot of people will use their Liege Maximo core. A lot of people will use their Lancelot or Bud Strike and just go right into the middle of things, and they'll just spam the ability to get themselves through the healing cluster. So I don't do that. But if there was a rush tank that I would trust to carry me through that situation, it would be Breakdown Prime and Bulkhead. 100%. Particularly if he was a 5-star. So, Candyman asked a question related to the leaderboard event. He said, why did they have the scores after rank 1 through 10? That is a good question. I think that it would have been great to just be able to see the whole thing. And I think players would have fought hard knowing that they were head to head, regardless. But man, it's tough. Like if you're in that 10th spot in that leaderboard last week, you can't even see who's behind you, and that's tough. And then Certainly made another good point saying slow down Twin Twist too. That's a good point. Now I will say for me, I usually just use one of my abilities on my rush tank to just kind of just keep Twin Twist in one place, and with the max health boost, it's not going to do anything. But if you can slow him down, then by all means, he's that much less of a threat at that point. All right, so we're at number 6 now. Now for me, this one I actually like more on defense than anything else, but I do actually like what he does, and that bot for me is, where is he at? I actually like Terramander and Topspin a lot. And the reason why I like them is because really it all boils down to the ability. I like that he lowers that enemy damage by 60%. And on top of that, I actually love the duration of his ability. He does deal a decent amount of damage, which actually on the live server, I actually got his G1, so he gets a little bit of a bump there. Uh, I think he's like a shade under 11k. I don't have that core on the test server right this second. Uh, I probably consumed the core by accident. But when you're looking at a bot that does, so hypothetically he says he does 10 over 10k, close to 11k in damage. Um, I do remember when we were in playtest and we were talking about if he could combo his ability. They decided to just combo him with Blitzwing because Blitzwing does a similar thing with one of his abilities. So for Blitzwing and Skylinks has a similar ability. Uh, so they was like, oh hey, how come we can't just you compare it combo it with the fire ability too? But it's a good damage ability. With the G1, it's a good ability, good damage ability damage wise that you could use really for most objects on the battlefield. The problem here is it's very niche. So for me, I like using him on defense. He was my no-brainer pick when they made a fifth outpost because what I started looking at it was most bases I was running to, they had like two outposts somewhere near the top, two somewhere near the bottom, usually on opposite ends. And one of the things that I was looking at is like, hey, that fifth outpost you can use to cover some middle ground. So what I started doing is actually put them in the middle of my defense. And when I did that, uh, you kind of hit them right before you get into the choke point, so that everybody gets hit by that plasma cloud. The plasma cloud has you at reduced. It has you at reduced damage, and so you get stuck in that choke point even longer. And that's really what I love them for. Right now, I'm using them on offense. Um, it is kind of difficult with the cloud. Um, Going in a line. But as you can see, as outposts get popped and stuff like that, they still walk into that cloud. And so now the outpost, they are reduced damage as well. So he's actually a bot that I really like a lot. I was using him on offense for a period of time, but I decided to just use him on defense instead. I mean, the thing is, and so I see a comment that says top spin is legit. I didn't know that he was underrated. I mean, the thing is, outside of, I've seen some of the guys in Scorched use him on defense. Um, at this point, at current meta, how many other places have you seen them used? Because I say I don't really see them used that much. All right, the next one I want to look at, and I was actually talking about her earlier, is I like Scylla and Ariel quite a bit. And going back to what I was saying earlier, if we could actually get all control bots to work properly, consistently, this would be, and this is one that I'm actually passively leveling in the background. Um, I like her ability a lot, and just because it allows your team as a whole to work fast. Because even if you go rush your team up into like a kill zone, like in a situation like this is actually a great situation to use it in. Now, her range could be better, and so that's a drawback, but I get it. You know, if you're going to rush an entire team to one location, you're going to want to reduce that range a little bit so they don't go crazy. Uh, what it does in a situation like this now makes it a little tougher to use, but they did reduce their costs, and that cost reduction actually did help a lot. Um, but you can see the team works really fast just based off of that ability. But then control doesn't always respond well. So in this case, but it's a good spammable ability. Uh, it helps the team. Helps the team a lot because that ability, it's given that 40% damage increase. Anybody that's in that pulse, they're getting that absorption shield. It works for 15 seconds. And when I think about a bot like Rodimus Unicronus and Inferno, one of the things that people were worried about is that Rod U would just go dash into trouble. In this case, Scylla's bringing the entire team with her, and I don't, I just don't see this used as much as I think that it should be used. To be honest with you, um, KG made a good point saying that it's awesome for raids. That is 100% one of the things that I'm gonna be using her for when I get her leveled. I want to say about about 3 picks ago, about three five star pulls ago was when I got Scylla, maybe four, because I said I know I had to wait. The last one that I had out of God Neptune was Sea Phantom, and I got Scylla shortly before that. So, but yeah, definitely one of those bots I like. That's my number 5 pick. So my number 4 pick is actually somebody I've talked about quite a bit because he is on my war team, and that is Thundercracker. And for you Autobots, that's Silverbolt. And the biggest thing for me is that let me actually take a look at this tooltip real quick because, and I started to really appreciate this dude now. To give some backstory, there was a point in time where you could just use all your air class bots and just fly them directly towards HQ. And Thundercracker was really the one that set that off because his range is so awesome. Now, obviously, that's something that you had to stop. You can't just allow that to happen. That's the game being too easy. Um, but for me, what I started using them for is, so go down the list of bots that I don't have. So I don't have anything like a breakneck or smoke screen. I don't have like a Scully or Warpath. These bots that are traditionally used for just taking out build bots easily. I don't have a Wild Rider, anything like that. So with this range, like I said earlier, is the friend of damage over time. So you're talking about without using an enhanced ordinance, he's at 388 over 27 seconds, right? So that turns out to be 10,476 total damage, right? If you add the enhanced ordinance to it, then you wind up with about 12,257 for your damage. So what that means is for me, and I'll actually go use an example as I actually play it out. What that means for me is I'm able to take out build bots if they're at long ranges. So that's kind of the reason why I was saying earlier I was using Acid Storm to kind of catch some of the smaller stuff. I've moved away from that strategy since, but you know, and I put this lower on the list than I actually would have thought because honestly, Thundercracker and Silverbolt have had their heyday. That day has since passed, and that's okay. But when I got into a situation when I was like, I'm in the top 5 war alliance, I'm struggling, and I said to myself, man, I got to do something. I don't have any build bot poppers or build bot killers, and I'm working with my teammates and I'm trying to figure this out. And I say, hey, I have a Thundercracker, and the Thundercracker was at like level 72. We would get ready to go into a big event, and I said, well, I'll go use Thundercracker because I don't have shit else. And it ain't been all rainbows and sunshine or nothing, but it's been working. Yeah, Fox the Bomb made a good point. A lot of people were using Ravage on Thundercracker to pop outposts. A lot of people were using, um, a lot of people were doing the Thunder Dropper technique. They were doing the same thing that you're talking about, but instead, what they were doing is when Growl first came out, people were using Growl and dropping him at the HQ. And then ultimately, Thundercracker was one of the reasons why they set it up so that Growl couldn't do damage to the HQ anymore. So Thundercracker and Silverbolt have actually had their moment in the sun several times over the course of the game. But it's one of those bots that, like, if you don't have a build bot killer like I don't, he's in the very first 5-star batch. So most people have him already. Um, even as a 4-star, he's got range and decent damage. You might have to use EO for him. You don't need EO, enhanced ordnance, for you guys wondering what I'm talking about. You don't have to use that core on him. I mean, even current day meta, with appropriate tactics, he works. And I see Trax had joined the stream. Thanks for joining, Trax. All right, so let's see. Number 3. This is a bot that I actually recently added to my war team as early as today. And I've been trying to find a way to get him into my war team. And I've mentioned it several times on stream, and I'm finally able to figure out how to do that today. And that bot that I added is Crankcase and Hoist. And so as soon as this loads up, I'll actually show the ability real quick. But what I love about Crankcase is that 2 things I love. I love that you're getting some additional healing that you can put onto your team. And this is what bugs me about using about how people process that. So with Crankcase and Hoist, one of the things that, well, it's a couple of things that people usually get freaked out about. So the first thing is with him, because, well, I'll start off with, most people don't like speed boost that much, that from what I've seen in this game, right? And so when you're looking at the speed boost, he's got 110% speed boost that he's going to give your entire team as long as they're within the radius of him. Now, he's been broken a couple of times, so they've had to do a lot of bug fixes with him and stuff like that. But 110% speed is pretty substantial. And then he's going to give you 525 health. So for context, when you look at his ability, and then you look at the ability of someone like Flatline and Minerva, that ability is doing 842, and a lot of people, that's their, that's the top bot used in Unicron League and stuff like that, probably the top used bot in the entire game. So you're getting, probably about 66% of that healing for the same duration when you use Crankcase. So for me, what that tells me is, if I'm using, a lot of people run double healers, and a lot of people would use, and this is what I was saying, what I don't understand is, a lot of people would do double healers, a lot of people would use like Astro Train and Springer, a lot of people would use Octone and Sandstorm, so they have additional healing. But this guy's doing 525 for 15 seconds. I was like, why aren't more people using them? Now his health, he's squishy. So in a lot of cases, what I actually end up doing is I wind up making him my Micronus carrier. It's got to, you got to have that Micronus core on your team somewhere. So he's my Micronus carrier. I give him a Fracas, and he actually survives really well. Right now, he doesn't have anything on him, but like when I'm using him in actual wars, it works really well. Um, he can cause some splitting if you're not careful, because what winds up happening in a lot of cases is the team destroys stuff so quickly that when the team starts destroying stuff, uh, they change directions to the next target really, really quickly, and that can cause the team to split. You can actually see the team starting to somewhat split right now. So what I like to do is, if I go somewhere into a choke point, say I'm fighting like Beachcomber and Deluge, or I'm fighting a Combiner, and I know that I'm going to be stuck in one spot for a little bit, and you know that you're going to be getting pounded on, that's when I decide to use Crankcase and Hoist. Blade 19 says that he uses Crankcase in raids all the time. I actually am starting to use him in raids a little bit too. I think I got him at level 66 right now, which is sufficient to use in raids. So Trax says that he doesn't use Micronus. I know Trax is, if you guys who don't know Trax is the absolute master of the backdoor technique. Now I'll say this: if I was using some of the techniques that you use in war, 100%, I wouldn't use prime cores that much. Um, for me, just being mostly a walk guy, occasional, and I don't do sack as much as anymore as I used to. For me, being a straight up walk guy, I'm always gonna keep my Quintus, my Cronus. People always get on me about Alpha Trion. I can do with or without that. Right now, I'm using it, but I don't always, and I always carry my Nexus. If I was doing backdoor, I wouldn't need half of that stuff. 100%, I agree with you on that. But yeah, for me, using crankcase and hoist really depends on choke points. If you use them in the choke point, that's when he's really gonna be awesome. All right, so number two for me, underrated bots. Another one of my war team bots. Um, and he does get some use. He just doesn't. He just gets a lot of disrespect, and that's Junk Heap and Wreckgar. Now, recently, when the last batch came out, they gave him a little bit of a cost reduction, and so for me, Junk Heap represents he's he's the bot that gets me out of any kind of trouble. If I have a bot wander off and I'm waiting and I know that he's gonna come back to me if I can just revive him real quick, that's what I use him for. He's a backup plan for me. And a lot of people stay on my case because they're like, well, why are you using Junk Heap? You know, there are better healers out there because his healing is really low. It's the second lowest in the game. He's only one is lower is Reflector and First Aid. Let's see. Let me go look at it. I got both of these guys at Captain, by the way. And so you got Reflector at 348 healing without combats. Junk Heap, you got at 392. But it's tough to justify because, like I said, you do have one of the most used bots in the game in there, and he's coming in at 535. It's the highest in the game. Uh, I just I like it for the ability itself, not for. And then there's a lot of other healing in the game. There's a lot of healing overall with combats. You've got your nightsticks and your fracas. You've got your Micronus core. You've got your alchemist core. Depending on your team, you could have the amalgamist core in play. Um, you've got a lot of different ways to heal. Now you've got stuff that's enhancing healing like Interax and Fireclad. So for me, what I really like to do is uh, get a lot of healing going for all the bots that I have on the battlefield, and then I just kind of use this dude to bail them out. Um, and there's one really, really key thing that the apes haven't been able to do anything with, and that's if you use this ability before you deploy your combiner, then it's gonna go away. That ability is gonna completely be wasted, and you just wasted your 5 points. So that's definitely one thing to be cautious of. Um, I tend to use them late in battles if I get in trouble, just to kind of move things along. But they did reduce this cost. The cost reduction did help a lot because now he has the same cost as Flatline, um, whom Flatline and Minerva. You know, um, it's healing over time. It's a substantial amount of healing over time, but I'm trying to use this like, hey, I'm in trouble. Like, help me out, and that's why I really like them. I was in love with them as soon as they came out with them. And James Slusser joined the chat says, "Oh, okay." He's asking a question that tracks about what he uses for backdoor. I said, "Living Dead." Dan joined the chat a while ago. Thanks for joining. They talking about backdoor techniques. Living Dead Dan says he watched a video of you of your backdoor technique. Uh, man, some funny people out here, man. All right, so now we down to number one. Now, I'm actually working on this bot right now in the background, and I think most people after he got an ability 11, like most people that's paying attention actually already know that this guy is good. I always thought he was good, but the ability 11 made him that much better. And I'm working on him myself, and I got some plans for him. You can probably already see who I changed out. I changed out Cutthroat in this case, but Exhaust and Trailbreaker are pretty awesome. And particularly with the ability 11. So now you're reflecting 32% of damage. That's already cool, right? And I'm just playing around a little bit with. Now I do actually like Double Crosser. I'm sure some of you will probably hit me up after the stream giving me good pairings, but I was just messing around. This is what I paired them with. But that healing 3% of your max health back for per second over the course of 13 seconds is huge. And while they're already reflecting damage, it makes them into an absolute stud. Now, they had to go change some things with him. They had to go change his the range of his. And that was recent. They changed the range of his shield and everything, and that's what really made him into a no bullshit. Just he's a stud. You know, you can go use that ability, and you can go use something like I was talking about, like where I'm using additional healing from Crankcase, something like that, and it just really works well. I can't actually get it. I got a FFD there. That's why I missed it. So you do have to watch out for that. But then after that, you know, this is a perfect bot to take with you into a kill zone and shield your entire team, reflect some damage. You can get some healing going for your entire team over the course of those 13 seconds. Makes them really, really tough to kill. And yeah, I'm actually, this bot was very, very close to becoming a 5-star also because the apes were debating about whether or not they should go use the dirtbag. They were talking about putting dirtbag in a legacy batch for a little bit, and I was like, "Cool, that'd have been great." And then they would have, and the plan was to possibly bring exhaust into the game as a 5-star, and I think that would have been great. But they decided not to do that. That does make me think that there's a strong chance that exhaust and trailbreaker get into the game next go around as a 5-star. So we'll, fingers crossed that, maybe next month or in September that they'll introduce him as a 5-star. I hope that's the case. But all right, guys, I am going to call it a night. Thank all of you again for joining the stream, and thank you for getting me over that hump there, getting me to the 1,000 viewers. So I have to put together a giveaway or something next week. So remind me, you guys that talk to me on Discord, so I can do some giveaways and stuff for the 1,000 subs. But yeah, man, I will see you guys next week, and I will see you on the battlefield. Freezius out.